This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by Squarespace.com, GoDaddy.com, and Radius Earphones and Rafstar.com.
All right, so we got Brandon Lee, Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale.
Paul Giamatti.
Yep. Paul Giamatti.
All right. Ooh.
Your favorite.
Scarlett Johansson and Thora Birch. That's Scarlett Johansson right there.
Steve Buscemi.
Steve. That's who you remember. Vigo.
Get the map.
Get the map, Legolas.
Hey, welcome to another episode of iFanboy, the comic book discussion show. My name is Ron. I'm here with
Conor.
And I'm Josh. This last summer was an explosion of comic book movies, and most of them were superhero. Just keep doing it.
Boom. They were all superhero movies this summer, weren't
yes.
they? Were there any non-superhero movies?
Hellboy.
Hellboy's a superhero movie. I mean,
Sort
it was.
of. Yeah.
I mean,
he's Hellboy, I guess.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of
Action
movies
is an
in
action
the past 10 years, maybe a little longer than that have been based on the comic book properties. And the movies are actually fairly big, but the comics aren't all that well known because they're actually indie properties, which is really common now because every property under the sun is getting optioned. But these are all things that became movies. And
they're the kind of movies out there that they didn't really bill as comic books before, based on the graphic novel was cool, you know.
People might not even know they're not people watching the show, but other people might not know they were even comic
like
books.
your parents or something like that. Yeah. So
and they know.
And they're good. They're not only, and most of these they're great comics, but they're also some good movies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice little, you know.
But it's good to get in to see the stuff that it came from and take a look at a little walk down memory lane.
The source material.
Yes. The first thing we want to talk about is actually a movie that's not quite out yet.
Just a bit of a preview for you.
Yes, a preview.
Yeah.
Whiteout by Greg Rucka and Steve Lieber. The movie was supposed to be out by now. It's not. It'll be a little while.
I think maybe next year.
Yeah.
09 is it?
Kate Beckinsale.
Early 09, the Dead Zone.
Yeah. Like a February, March.
Yeah.
Right before the Watchmen. That'll be great. That'll be a hit. Maybe right after. So.
However, it is important to say that for me, this is I think my first exposure to Greg Rucka, if not concurrent with the stuff that he did at DC.
I think your first exposure with Greg Rucka. Like, you probably read the Batman stuff, but this was when he was becoming a big name. And then people were like, hey, check out his
doing what he's
other
known
stuff.
For.
And remember, this hit big. They really capitalized on his name recognition from Batman. When they said, here, Whiteout, and everyone that we know went out and bought it.
Anyway, this was the first thing that really made me say, oh, I really like Greg Rucka.
Yeah.
This is an excellent book. It is a federal marshal is dispatched to Antarctica to investigate the first murder that has ever happened there. That's basically the pitch.
It's a murder mystery.
It's a murder mystery, and it's about Carrie, who's the tough federal marshal, and you know all the stuff that she discovers, and
she gets hurt.
Yeah, and Tara Chase shows up in this. No, it's not Tara Chase.
Not officially.
It's not exactly. You're right.
Not officially Tara Chase.
There's a British girl who later
blonde British secret agent who.
Tara Chase from
Queen and Country. The thing about Antarctica and like McMurdo Station and all that stuff is that is a fascinating place.
It's a great setting. Yeah.
You basically go there and you're on your own. It takes a special kind of person to be there for a while, and it gets kind of strange. And they're sort of cut off from society completely for a really long time, and
so there's no Chinese takeout in Antarctica.
Not even a little.
And it's and
not even bad Chinese takeout.
I mean, it's an obvious, the title reference whiteout meaning to the whiteout of the snow.
Right.
And and I thought there were just interesting little specifics about the base, like the fact that like buildings are connected by a wire that you kind of hold on to as you walk between buildings because you get out there and you can't see anything because of the whiteout.
Yeah, the whiteout being the storm that is so. The snow is blowing around so much, you literally can't see anything. Planes can't come in, helicopters can't land. You are completely stranded there. And,
it's like a sandstorm.
And it's cold.
For me, this is Steve Lieber's, not only just Greg Rucka, this is Steve Lieber's masterwork.
Yep.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's a guy who needs to get more work in mainstream comics. I love the way that he works. And what's really cool about this book is it's all in black and white, which is not a big deal. But when you look through it, it's almost a throwback because he uses lots of zipatone.
Yep.
Which is something that doesn't get used anymore, which is the sort of the stick-on pattern stuff that he would put on the pages.
Right.
And that's how he gets patterns and fabrics and things like that. and I've seen him do sketches from this, and it's fascinating to watch him construct them because he does the ink and everything, and then he goes over the whiteout sketches with whiteout, actual liquid paper, to put that. And as you look through the pages, you can actually see that.
Yeah.
They're just gorgeous, and it's like Greg Rucka, for the first time. He was a crime novelist, still doing it concurrently, but he's coming in and he's applying that to comic books. And a lot of times dudes will come in from another medium. They'll come in from another medium and not get comic books right away.
Right.
But this is just a great comic book.
Because he loves comics.
Yeah.
And then it spawned a sequel, Melt.
Whiteout
Melt, which was not as good, but also good.
Yeah. No, but this is, I mean, if you haven't read this, if you're a Rucka fan, you got to read
Queen
it.
and Country, and you need to read Whiteout.
Yeah, if you've never discovered Steve Lieber, who's one of all of our favorite artists, he's just really a really good talent. So, and read it before the movie comes out. So
You'll note that my copy is not soon to be a motion picture.
Right, because
it doesn't have a picture of Kate Beckinsale on the front.
Right.
It has a Frank Miller drawing on it.
Well, Oni has now the digest size, like the Queen and Country, the Whiteout definitive editions, which are smaller and thicker.
Yeah. So
nice.
Cool. So that's going to come out next year, maybe.
Perhaps. We're not making any guarantees.
But now let's turn back the clock to an oldie.
Let's go back to my junior year in high school.
Okay, let's go back there.
And,
Awkward Josh.
A little movie. Giant nose.
Hey guys.
What's going on?
Want to hang out?
Anybody want to get some coffee?
Mr. Nimoy.
Didn't sound like this.
Monorail.
I didn't really talk at all.
Oh, were you a mumbler? Were you a quiet?
I was quiet. So I was one of the people I was comfortable with, and I talked too much. Maybe you're familiar with that.
I have no
Does
idea.
anybody like Hawkeye?
I wasn't reading comics then.
So you weren't reading comics then, so why were you in your junior year of high school? Did we beat you up?
I'm sorry.
Were you with
I wasn't. No, I was in the computer room.
I wore a leather jacket and had
All right. Anyway,
greaser
so
hair.
we're in junior high. We're in junior high in Maine.
That was when the book came out.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a story here. I thought there was...
Actually, no, the movie came out then, is what I was going
Right,
to say. Is
yeah.
when most people
Junior year
probably
of high
became
school.
what are we talking about?
most people probably became familiar with The Crow around in 94 when it came out. And I never knew it was from a comic book until years and years later. And at the time, I remember like that movie was kind of a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because it was the Brandon Lee thing.
Well, yeah, because Brandon Lee passed away while making it, and
Passed away, he was killed.
Right. Well, he died.
Yeah, but it was
it
like
wasn't killed.
It wasn't like he
was
died
murdered.
of sleep. He was
no, but it wasn't like he was
shot.
murdered. Yeah, it was a stunt gone wrong. And it also the Crow, was originally done by J.O. Barr, right?
James O'Barr.
James O'Barr, published by Kitchen Sink Press, and it had that iconic white face with the black kind of
Joker.
mouth, the Joker-esque kind of thing, which at that time period, 1994, with like the music that was involved and the whole kind of goth thing, it just launched 1,000 goths.
well, looking back at it now,
Yeah.
it really looks of the time.
Well, this is
the comic
even
book.
earlier. This is 80s.
Right, the comic book, but seeing the stories from the 80s, the art feels to me like early 90s art.
But it was done like in the early 80s.
I know that. What I'm saying is that this was a precursor for a lot of the stuff that followed after that.
It was
like
very
when you think
influential.
of this kind of comic, this laid a lot of ground that people. It's published by Kitchen Sink Press, or at least this version was when it came out. And he did it over a long period of time. Started it in '81, and didn't. Some of the stuff was finished after the movie came out.
It's one of those long labors of love.
Yeah.
That was.
What's really fascinating though is that it was done as he was dealing with some shit, basically. Like, you can't tell when you read it, by the way. Also, when he was dealing with the shit, he had decided to join the Marines. And so he had a working knowledge of weaponry, which is also apparent as you look through this, because there's lots of guns in it. And the movie, it was remarkable to me at the time because it was really violent and awful, and this is more so than that.
Wow.
I mean, this was really... Like, he goes and gets revenge on these bad guys, and he doesn't screw around.
Right.
Well, the story of the Crow people don't know is this guy's girlfriend was killed.
Senselessly.
And then he dies, and he's reborn as the Crow.
Right.
And he gets revenge.
Not
Now,
everybody who was involved at all.
Josh, you weren't around in the 80s reading books, right? I mean, you were...
No.
And people who are newer to comics, this is huge. This is a huge, huge comic book. In fact, I can remember almost every store had this at the counter.
Yeah.
And this was always displayed prominently because this was a humongous comic book.
Yeah, at the time...
It was a big indie book. And
crossover
huge.
books
Yeah.
that sort of had a mainstream appeal. that was a really big
When you
deal.
talk the pantheon of indie books, like The Crow is going to have to be in a discussion of all-time indie books.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And like I said, the look and the feel and the like kind of joke about the goth thing and stuff like that. But this is precursor to Sandman.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
the whole this was a lot of influence for a lot of people in music, a lot of people in art, a lot of people in comics. And it's funny because the movie was all right. I mean, and it got bashed here and there by some people and stuff like that. So
I mentioned in a show a while back that Frank Miller's Sin City was my first indie book that I bought, but I always knew of The Crow. I mean, The Crow was always there.
Yeah.
In terms of just the comic book culture, it was always.
I remember when I was in middle school when I was discovering that there are other publishers other than Marvel and so
I found this company called DC.
Well, no, actually, I didn't, not until later on. But that's the irony thing. But I remember it was the Aliens Predator books that Dark Horse did, and then it was The Crow. It was like, oh, there's other stuff, and and then it was definitely I didn't buy any of it because I thought it wasn't my thing, but but it's important.
It's one of those books that
Cue
you
the
can
makeup
find.
and the suit he's gonna get in.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting flashbacks. So.
We can get you the jacket.
It's one of those books that's kind of worth taking a look through for a few reasons. One, it's really well done. It is of a time. It absolutely is. It'll take you back, but also it's incredibly sincere, I suppose. Like almost too much so.
It's from the heart. I mean, the dude's got issues.
There's pain on the pages.
There's pain on the page. But that's that passion that people tune into and love. So.
There's a reason why it spawned all that.
Exactly.
There's a lot of nudity in there.
A lot of nudity.
Yeah.
So.
He's not screwing around.
Yes, he is in the pages.
Oh well. Pick it up if you get a chance to. It's one of those things you find at a comic convention.
This is a book
whatever.
we should have talked about at some point before because this is a huge all-time book.
So.
And when we come back from, we'll have more books to talk about, more black and white. There's not a color book to be found on this page.
There isn't actually. That's a good point.
That's how you got a movie made in the mid-90s.
This episode of iFanboy is brought to you by Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com to find out how you can make professional-looking websites even if you don't know a thing about how to build them. Whether you're looking to build a blog, a portfolio, or any kind of website for your small business or giant business, Squarespace has the tools you need even if you don't have all the coding experience. Go to squarespace.com and make sure to tell them iFanboy sent you. And of course, we got to tell you about GoDaddy. Web hosting from GoDaddy.com includes 99.9% uptime, 24/7 support, and free access to Hosting Connection, the place to install over 30 free applications sure to help you get the most from your hosting plan and website. If you want to make an impact online, GoDaddy.com is what you need. .com names for as low as $1.99, plus world-class hosting, fast and easy website builders, and much, much more. Get over to GoDaddy.com today and use the coupon code iFanboy to get 10% off of your purchase.
So one of the best performances of all time, if you ask me, in a comic book movie has been Paul Giamatti in American Splendor. I think.
agrees.
I do.
Yeah.
That's
Not that I don't agree, but he really agrees.
You really agree?
I think that movie for me is one of the best comic book movies ever made.
Yeah.
Like if you were to ask me.
But it's tough because it's not exactly a comic, because it's a biography.
It's true, but
so are the
comic
comics.
books, right?
Yeah.
So it's based on him.
Wait,
We should explain who.
Yeah, I guess so. Harvey Pekar he was a file clerk in a VA hospital, I believe.
in Cleveland,
Cleveland,
Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yep.
And he was curmudgeonly? Would you say that?
Yeah, a little, yeah.
Just a weird little dude who's kind of angry and pissed off, but was also a really good writer, and he was into cartoons and he was into jazz.
Right. And he falls into the R. Crumb alternative comics world, like where these he would sketch these stories and then give them to a real artist and then he'd write them and that sort of thing. But loved the for whatever reason connected with the visual medium of comics and could not make comics.
But the stories were literally as mundane as life got for him.
Walking to work.
Yep.
And the dude at the deli pissed him off, and it was just that. Yeah.
And the movie I thought captured that kind of thing, and the reason, like, the books were a big deal.
Yeah.
They're a huge deal.
Yeah. And more so and on. But there must be something to him, or the way that he is that attracts people to him, because which is for me the same thing that they liked about the movie. So what I'm saying is, if you liked the movie, this is going to do this for you.
I mean, the fascinating thing about it, he's had his levels of stardom reluctantly, of course. I mean, like he was on Letterman, he used to be on Letterman a lot, and he was this unique character that people really were attracted to because he was so curmudgeonly, but also because he was honest and the way he talked about things. I mean, great writer, not a skillful artist. And what I like about American Splendor is that it's never been like Harvey Pekar and another artist doing this long run. Artists came and go over the years to the point where he's still publishing books now, and people are, people now like Dean Haspel and stuff like that are illustrating his work.
Some big names. The last one had like had Derek Robertson in it.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it had some big guys. I think people respond to him because he represents the downtrodden, people that never succeed, and there's a lot of honesty. I said in an audio show recently that this is a book. When I think of indie books, I still think of books like American Splendor. I still think of books like Crow, in that the art by our standards now is not great.
Right.
But it's honest. It's honest and it's pure. I mean, this is art. And it may be mundane, like this one is standing behind old Jewish ladies in the supermarket line. That's the story, and it's just about being behind somebody who's annoying in the line.
Right.
But that's everyday life, and he's so good at capturing that. That's why people respond to it.
The title of the story.
And that art is by R. Crumb, who's one of the legendary, alternative comic artists of the '60s and '70s. But the fact that it's telling life and the brutal honesty, and so like some of his biggest hits have been like Our Cancer Year, just profiling when he had cancer and dealing with that and his wife, great stories coming out of his relationship and with his partner and all that kind of deal. And it's definitely interesting to see it's a life documented in comic form.
So I love that, because I love when
It's
people
been going on for
decades,
3 decades.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it is that because of the movie, all of those books are available.
Yeah.
You can go and you can find them where...
Like this one I got, because I realized I hadn't owned any, I'd only read it.
Right.
That's a post-movie book, and you can see Giamatti's on the cover or not.
But previously, they would have been hard to find.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Because they're a little
small print run books.
Yeah, some small publishers sometimes done themselves. And what's great, at least what I got, I don't know Harvey Pekar, I've never met him or anything, but what I got from the movie and also from interviews is just that he doesn't get why anybody likes it either. Yeah. Like he just like, these are my little stories, okay. Like it's the kind of thing where he's not, there are a lot of people who work in comics who are working to be successful. Yeah. He's not. Like he has to get it out. Exactly, which is great. So so American Splendor, if you haven't checked that out, it's definitely one of the best, kind of alternative comics out there. So, and then also one of my favorite alternative writer artists is Daniel Klaus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Klaus. Who did in the '90s did a series of I don't know what to call it. Series called 8 Ball.
It's like an anthology. Right?
Well, no, it's not really. It's just his title.
Yeah.
And in the pages of 8 Ball, he told various stories. 8 Ball would come out, and there'd be like 3 or 4 stories in it.
Isn't that an anthology?
Yeah, I guess, but it's by one artist though.
Right.
But yeah. And then what's happened in the late '90s is that they've pulled the individual stories and made them into graphic novels. So like Ghost World, which is the one we're talking about here, is one of the stories that came out of the pages of 8 Ball and eventually was made into a movie starring Thora Birch and Scarlett Johansson and Steve Buscemi.
Scarlett Johansson when she was young, and I thought, she's really attractive. Too bad. Oh wait, now
she had that raspy voice.
She was way too young to be talking about her. Like
I know, but she's not now, and look what happened to her.
All right.
But
we saw it in San Diego.
But so the great thing, we saw it in San Diego as a preview the year it came out. The great thing about Daniel Klaus, at least the way how I connected with him, is I started reading his stuff in the mid '90s, and it was right around the same time as I was you're going to college and you're starting to realize there's a bigger world and kind of whatever interests in art and all these things that you get into. And Daniel Klaus is the classic kind of art school. Like he's gone the whole gamut and all the pretension that comes with it and all the, the attitudes and things like that. And they all have been able to be distilled and captured in his various stories in some way, shape, or form. Not praising it, not criticizing it, but just kind of presenting it. So Ghost World tells the story of 2 girls who live in a town and they just don't fit in, and kind of how they look at the world as if it's a world of ghosts, and kind of, not dealing with the social situations and struggling with relationships and things like that.
Well, the interesting thing is between the book and the movie, he did the movie as well.
He co-wrote the movie,
but they're completely different.
Yeah, they are.
The tone is the same.
Yeah, the tone is the same.
The stories are completely different.
There are elements of the book in the movie, but and it's interesting that Terry Zwigoff directed the movie, and he's the guy who directed the documentary on R. Crumb. So there's a connection. So Terry Zwigoff knows comics as well, and they made the typical Hollywood conscious decisions on we need to have, because there's a bunch of different things going on in the book, so they needed to carry one kind of storyline through it. But what's probably genius about the movie was the casting of Steve Buscemi. Yeah. And that if there's ever a person in this world that looks like they were drawn by Daniel Klaus, it's Steve Buscemi.
Not wrong.
It was
tooth and the
uncanny, just the hair and just the clothes and the way he carried. And admittedly, a part of that is Steve Buscemi who I think is a great actor, being able to come into the role and be able to play play it. But the level of awkwardness in the book carries over to the movie. Like, I feel as though they're good companions.
The tone is completely correct.
Yeah.
Josh, it's right.
It's almost the visual representation, because when you use an actor,
Yep.
even your ugliest actor is going to be kind of attractive.
Right.
Like, there's something about the way that Daniel Clowes draws that the people aren't quite attractive.
Right.
Or like you see the, I don't want to say ugliness, but it sort of is.
The awkwardness.
Right.
Sort of awkward ugliness of just regular folks,
Yeah.
especially like the people who, you know, the people who are don't fit in. They almost they strive a little bit to fit in less, so they make themselves look like they. And that's what these characters are like.
Totally.
And there's probably a lot of people who can relate to this.
Right. And at heart, it's a tale of maturing and growing up. You know, the girls are graduating high school, they're moving on, they're trying to decide what to do with their lives, but you know, they don't want to move forward, or they want to move forward, they're not in agreement, and it's just kind of the misunderstandings that can happen in relationships.
And it's also really honest about
Yeah.
teenage life, I guess.
Yeah.
And where you fit in. So there's that.
so-
Let's talk about some violent shit.
When we get back from the break, we'll do that.
Rafstar and Radius have teamed up with some special offers for iFanboy fans. Japanese-designed Radius earphones deliver the highest level of sound quality, superior construction, unrivaled comfort, and unparalleled style. These ultra-lightweight aluminum earphones are designed to fit comfortably in the ear and stay secure while active. Experience your music in a whole new way with Radius Atomic Base aluminum earphones. Try them today and see what you've been missing. See, there's Ron with a pair right now, meaning that he gets to try out free stuff and we don't. Rafstar.com is a site where people can enter free giveaways for the chance to win a wide variety of prizes. The site's entirely free with no membership fees, ticket costs, and no limit to how many prizes can be won. Rafstars also has a featured charity for each giveaway, so by competing to win free prizes, you'll also be helping charities. Radius Products has now joined forces with Rafstar, giving you the opportunity to win some of their amazing products absolutely free. Visit Rafstar.com to get your free tickets. The more times you visit, the greater your chance to win. If you want to get your hands on some Radius earphones immediately, then head over to RadiusEarphones.com and enter the promotion code iFanboy at checkout to get 10% off your entire purchase.
You want to talk about violent shit?
I got your violent shit right here.
We got some violent shit right here for you.
Joey?
So in the late 90s, there was a imprint that was owned by DC or bought by DC. I forget exactly, but it was called Paradox, Paradox Press. And they put out some...
Paradox Graphic Mystery.
They put out some great kind of crime-themed stories that were graphic novels. And they were black and white, and they were done by some great...
And they were in this digest size.
Yeah.
Before that became
it was
a hit
totally,
thing.
it was totally 10
Ahead of
years
the
ahead of its time.
Yep.
So far ahead of its time that it failed, and, as things are often to do. And what came out of it, though, were two great stories that got picked up and made into movies in the early 2000s. The first one being Road to Perdition.
This is from Max Allan Collins, he's a novelist.
You read his stuff, don't you? Or haven't you? I thought you did.
No, I mean, I've I think a couple, but I'm not like a, I don't know.
not a fan.
I don't even know what he writes. And art by Richard
Just say yes.
Piers Rayner. And this was made into a movie by Sam Mendes, starring Tom Hanks and Paul Newman.
And Jude Law.
And Daniel Craig.
Yes. Yeah.
Before
Great cast.
anybody knew who Daniel Craig was.
Jude Law.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a nonfiction.
And
I'm sorry, this is a fiction piece.
who's the old dude? Newman. Paul
Yeah,
Newman.
Paul Newman,
Yeah.
Basically, it's an Irish mob war with the Italians in Chicago with Al Capone and Nitti. And I mean, it's fictional because the Irish
But
family
they
is.
exist in the real world.
It's got. It looks like it fits in our history.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just a mob story, and it's really.
It focuses on a father who is known affectionately as the Angel of Death.
Right.
And he's the enforcer. He's the killer for the mob. And he gets on the wrong side of his bosses, and they decide they're going to go after him. So he has to protect his kid, and they go on the lam.
But not only do they go on the lam, but he starts taking out their banks.
Yeah.
And so
He's very effective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And for me, this is a book that is much better than the film that came after it, because for me, it just felt like the movie was a little more toothless compared to this, because in the movie what you had to do was make the character a little more sympathetic and make him a little more of a good guy.
Yeah.
And this, he's not very much of a good guy. He's a good dad. He's protective like that, but because it was Tom Hanks, which for me I was like, oh, that's interesting. He'll be really. But
I thought he was good. I thought he was really
he was
effective.
good. He was
Yeah.
fine, but
But you rooted. I mean, you didn't. I didn't get the feeling that he was a bad guy. Even though
Right,
he was a
because
hitman,
he's
yeah.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Tom Hanks smiles at you, and the
Yeah.
world is okay.
Yeah.
You know,
You used to root for him in the book, though. You don't want him to
Yeah,
die
sure.
in the
No,
book.
you do, but
Yeah.
it's a different tone. It's just,
Yeah.
and I liked the sort of raw nature of this one a little better.
I really liked the book, but I did prefer the movie a little bit more. He's a little more of a superhero in this. He's so good that he takes out 25 guys in a room. No one can get him.
He's Batman.
He's a little too little too good in the book, but in terms of his shooting ability and that his goodness, but it's a great book and the art is just fantastic.
Yeah.
I
It's
think I
totally-
read that it took like 5 years to come out or something like that because the art is so detailed.
Yeah.
It's
It's almost photorealistic,
Yeah.
but it's clearly illustrated as opposed to
if
less
you
light boxed.
Yeah, if you liked some of the kind of true crime or crime-based books that we've talked about previously, like some, Bendis' Torso and
right. Definitely. Yeah.
books along those lines, then you'll definitely want to check this out because it's that period piece and it's.
Some of it's definitely light boxed. A few of these Al Capone shots
Yeah.
are photos, but it's a really fun book.
Yeah.
And not to disparage it in the least. It's a really good
Yeah,
book.
no, it's a real classic. It's really gone underrated, I think.
And if you watch the movie and you liked it, this adds to that.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel like an also ran.
This is purely action where I enjoyed the somber tone of the movie.
Yeah.
But that's just me liking Sam Mendes' work.
Yeah.
Finally, A History of Violence, which was an Oscar-nominated film.
Oscar-nominated movie starring Viggo Mortensen and
David Cronenberg film.
And David Cronenberg directed, and Ed Harris. Possibly one of the most chilling sex scenes in any movie I've ever seen. The stair scene. That was
Yeah.
yeah.
Awkward to talk about it with you.
Sorry. But this was also published under Paradox, and now it's actually been reprinted under the Vertigo imprint.
This is written by John Wagner from Judge Dredd.
Nice.
And art by Vincent Locke, who I don't know.
He says he did Sandman. I know the name. I'm not terribly familiar with the art.
The art is very, very scratchy and sketchy, which is a good style.
Similar black and white tone.
Kind of Eddie Campbell-ish, but a little more together, I suppose.
Yeah, I think less sketchy, but I
Yeah.
see that influence, yeah.
This is one of the few times where I will say that not few, because I just said it, but the movie was way better than the book.
The movie's really freaking good.
It is a really good
The movie's really
This
good.
is not a bad comic, but it's not a great one, where I thought the movie was great.
Yeah.
Do you think that has something to do with the personalities that they got to put in the movies?
I
if you
think
put a presence
the story
like,
is
Cronenberg
also...
and Viggo and
I think the story is also different.
Do you have
Yeah.
hair dryer? That's a different movie. But it's the same people, and I just wanted to say it.
It's somewhat the same in that the story is that there's this retired mobster who's living a new life and wants to, and then the mob pulls him back in. Now it's the same up until the point of being pulled back in, and then the movie and the book differ. This gets really violent. Like there's like
Really? read this
there's a horrific torture of someone who's basically tortured down to what's the bare minimum he needs to live, like limbs gone.
There's stuff there are the
just
lines they can't cross in the movies, and I think, and what's interesting is that if you look at the tone of the book compared to the tone of the movie, Cronenberg is a director who has got quite a reputation, and he took less of the violence angle and more of the
psychological violence.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's funny because I remember that movie being very violent and tense.
Oh yeah,
Really,
it was so.
really
Yeah.
It's a fantastic film, but
And when you tell me that this is way more violent, I kind of don't want to read it.
Yeah.
it's still good. It's just
Yeah.
that when you compare it to the other normally it's the other way around.
It's
the film
hard
is
if
good,
you
the book's
see,
better.
especially with comic books, if you've seen a movie first and then you're looking at this and you're like, this doesn't look like Viggo Mortensen. This
Right.
doesn't look like Maria Bello.
Right,
That's
yeah.
not right.
Yeah. Man, that sex scene. Hey,
It got weird.
it got weird. Well, no, because it wasn't hot. I mean, it was like this. It was this
kind of
weird.
hot.
Well, it depends on your. I mean, but it was like this weird, like power struggle thing, and I don't know, it was weird. But if you saw the movie, it's always good to read the original text and see where the.
No, but if you
differences
like
are.
crime, I mean, this is it's a mob
Yeah.
book, and it's pretty, I mean, I don't think it's bad. I just think comparatively it's not as good, but it's fun. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
these
good.
books were really good. So, cool. All right, so if you have any other ideas of movies that are also comic books that we haven't talked about, you want to hear us talk about, you can shoot us an email at contact@ifanboy.com.
Or you could call in, leave a voicemail at 888-327. Wait. Fanboys. 888-Fanboys.
326-2697.
Scene. Do you have hair dryer?
That scene, or the other one.
Either one.
And you can talk about these particular books or the movies themselves at ifanboy.com. There'll be a post about this show. You can discuss it there, or at ifanboy or vision3.com/ifanboy. There will also be discussion there and more videos from ifanboy.
Yeah.
326.
2697.
2697.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right when I need it, it goes.
I need a little jokey joke. So, after Iron Man and Batman, I want more.
Jokey Juju joke.
Oh, I love it when it's inappropriate and it's recorded.
Jokey Juju joke.